Another Cycle for Life video. This time what we're going to do is we're going to take a bike that I picked up as a daily commuter. I chose to go get a very inexpensive bike that would last a long time with very little maintenance, but I only live a mile from work, so I didn't want something with a lot of power. I didn't want something big. For what I'm doing right now, for the purpose that I have, this little Ninja 250 that I got for $250 because it doesn't run right is perfect. It needs a carb clean. Reason I know it needs a carb clean is because I started it on starter fluid, ran it on the choke. It runs fine on the choke at idle. And then as soon as you take it off the choke, it either wants to die or won't take throttle. That's a telltale classic sign that the pilot jets aren't flowing enough fuel and it needs a carb clean. So what's the purpose of this video? This video is a carb clean video. And I'm not doing it at work. I'm going to do it just at my place. I rented a little mobile home trailer out in the mountains, so a cheap little place to stay. I'm just going to do it out here on this driveway. And I'm going to do it with the same kind of tools that you guys on YouTube would have access to. Yes, at work I have, you know, presses, ultrasonic machines, car lifts, TIG welders, MIG welders. You know, I've got a snap-on box that's literally bigger than this 19 G20 van. Oh, maybe not quite as long, but my snap-on box is almost as long as this van. So, you know, you guys don't have access to those kind of tools working at home if you're watching this video. So I'm going to show you the tools I'm going to do this job with. Just a basic old beat up set of Bosch. I think this was a Lowe's special at some point, and that's my old race box I've had for, I don't know, I've had that little toolbox for 35 years. I started out of that little toolbox as a teenager. So with a very humble set of tools and a very humble environment, I'm going to show you guys how you would do a carb clean if you were at home. So the first thing you need to do on almost any street bike to do a carb clean is you need to get the gas tank and the seat out of the way. So this bike's real simple to get the seat off of. Bam, done, just like that. The other thing you want to almost always do whenever you're working on something is disconnect your battery, pull it out, throw it on a charger. So yeah, I got my battery charging off this Ninja 250 here. I pulled the battery and the toolbox out of this little section right here behind the air intake for the air box. And when you pull this rubber boot, yep, there they are. When you pull that rubber boot, it exposes bolts down there. And then this lifts out and this slides back. And that allows you to slide this whole air box, filter, and box assembly back that way, away from the carburetors, to give you clearance to slide the front of the carburetors out of the boot. The biggest challenge on these old things is they don't use real proper band clamps. They use these cheap little springs right there. I don't know if the camera's getting that or not, but see that cheap little spring? The other side doesn't even look like it has one. It's either broken off or already fallen off. Man, what a junky way to do it. So when I put this back together, I'll either band clamp it or something to figure out a way to get that to seal better. Because no matter how clean your carburetors are, no matter how spotless you get the pilot circuits and the correct jetting and everything, if you can't seal the back of that Venturi to the air box, you're going to have air leaks, and air leaks are going to be throwing your jetting off, which is going to give you the same result as a carb that's not clean. So the whole idea of cleaning a carb is to get all the jets and passages clear to get enough fuel through to mix properly. More is not always better. A lot of people just put bigger jets in thinking, oh, well, I'll just put more gas in and that'll make it go faster. No, it doesn't. An engine is an air pump, not a fuel pump. So as that engine's running, it's pumping air. There's a certain amount of air that it's pumping, and that's fixed. That's defined by, on a 4-stroke, displacement, cam, you know, cam lobes and cam timing, compression. There's a whole lot of things that factor into how much air an engine flows. And then the carburetor's job is to give that engine the right amount of fuel for the amount of air that is flowing. So when you modify an engine, it's often common you need to modify the jetting to go with it. When I'm road racing Ninja 250s, I pull the air boxes completely off to get as much airflow as I possibly can, which is how I get Ninja 250s to put out over 40 horsepower. I run those carburetors wide open with no air boxes. And of course I have to go up 18, 20, 22 sizes in the jets sometimes. And put completely different needles in them to get them to even run. So I'm not trying to digress into racing, I'm trying to keep this video about carb cleaning. So why am I bringing it up? Well, because if that air boot is not properly seating with the back of that carburetor, like it's not, you can see I'm moving it back with my finger, it's not sealed on there. There's massive air leaks between that boot and that carburetor, and that alone will cause a condition that makes you think you need a carb clean, whether you even need one or not. All right, next little trick on this job is, you see these rubber nubs for the gas tanks? Man, if I had a nickel for every time I was chasing these down in a shop somewhere. Take these off. If you're going racing, Yama bond them inside and glue them on the frame so they don't come off. If you're not going racing and you're not worried about it, just put them aside and make sure you don't lose them. But seriously, if you try to ride down the road, and I've seen clowns do this before, if you try to ride down the road without those bumpers and that gas tank's bouncing on that frame like that, it'll crack your bodywork up, because then the bodywork's taking all the force of the tank. The weight of that gas, and gas is, I don't know, 7-something pounds a gallon. You get 5 gallons in there, you get 40-some pounds bouncing around. You want that weight on the frame. You don't want it on your plastic. So make sure you don't lose those little rubber bumpers. The next trick was I had to get the clutch cable, which runs down here like this, to the clutch. I had to get the clutch cable out of the way to get to the carburetors and get to the carb cables and get the carb slid out. So, sorry I didn't show you that on the video. If you don't know how to take a clutch cable off, this is probably over your head anyway, no offense. You probably shouldn't be doing it. So, not to be mean, but seriously. So, we got the clutch cable out of the way. Next step's going to be throttle cables. We got the air box totally loose. Okay, next step is the choke cable. You don't even need any tools for it. It just slips into that fitting right there and pulls that cable back. So you just close your cable to the all the way extended position and then pull it back, and that acts like you're pulling the choke cable on. Just pull it back, and when you get it enough out of there, just slide it out of there and then unclip it off, and then unclip it off the other end. Okay, so choke cable's next. Alright, we got everything disconnected. We got the fuel lines disconnected, the choke cable's disconnected, we got the air box slid back to give us as much room as is possible. I wish I had more, but people at Kawasaki are mean, so it's not. The next thing are these manifolds right here. I loosened up all 4 for you guys. See that? I got them all 4 loose. A lot of people try to erroneously just loosen the ones up on the back and then slide the carbs back, and that leaves these boots in the way for you to have to fight to get them off the bike. So I'd loosen all 4, and then if the manifolds want to pop off the front, let them pop off the front. Whichever way is going to come easier, let it do it. Whether you're fighting it on the back side or the front side, they got to come out of there. So just loosen all 4 clamps, get the manifolds out of the way first if you can, and then slide the carburetors out. This is a very unpleasant, not so happy part of this job. It's packed in there tight, and a lot of rubber on the back side has to flex back to give you room to get the carburetors back, and a lot of rubber's got to flex on the front side to turn those manifolds and twist them out. And you got metal clamps jangling around all in the way. So yeah, this part is not fun. Ow. Left manifold out of the way. Okay, and there are the carbs. This vent line is just a vent. It just dangles down. You don't want it to dangle on top of the engine where the starter is. I'll show you what I mean. I've seen fires start this way. There's your starter right there. Right there, connection. That's a positive cable going to the starter. That can maybe, shouldn't, can arc out sometimes. If another piece of wire, another piece of metal or something were to hit it. Or occasionally I've seen defective starters spark from the inside. And if this vent is dripping fuel, because they do, the vents do drip fuel, fuel gets hot, bubbles up, drips out. You don't want that building up on top of your engine there and creating a fire hazard. So it's important to have this vent there and have it going out beyond the back of the engine case and down to the ground. Yep, that's the removal of the carburetors. The next step is going to be pulling the bowls and pulling the slides out, checking the diaphragms and prepping them for cleaning. And I'm done with this phase of the project. I got them out of the bike, so I'm going to turn the camera off. And next time I see you, we'll be sitting somewhere else on a workbench where I'm taking these carbs apart and preparing them to actually clean them. All right, God bless you.